Hello, friend.
Hello, my friend Pam. How is
How
it
are you?
going today?
It's good. It's good. It's a sunny, chilly day. How
Yep.
about you guys?
I didn't know that the sun was out because I haven't been out yet today, but I just looked out my window. There's some sun out there. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
cold, but yes.
Yes. Cold and sunny.
Yep.
Yes.
We're probably getting to the end of winter. That's what I'm hoping.
You are. You
Maybe.
are.
We'll see.
Yeah. I tell myself 3 more months of it.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah, we
insane.
don't get,
No. Three
I mean,
months.
seriously, Pittsburgh doesn't get flip-flop weather, my
Oh,
version of
like
what
we
flip-flop
do.
weather should
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
until like end of May. Like Mother's
Okay.
Day is always really
Gotcha.
chilly here and
Yeah.
rainy. Hmm.
It could be a warm March, it could be a cold. I mean, you just don't know here. And what you said is absolutely accurate. We get the flip-flop.
Yes, I do remember one February when we lived in Maryland. I was taking the kids out for a walk on a warm, sunny day, and I was worrying about my tulips because they were popping out of the ground already. And I was like, oh no, this is too soon for them because, there's going to be another frost because it's only February.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't get days like that in Pittsburgh ever in February. But DC,
Okay.
I can remember getting
Yeah.
days like that sometimes.
Yeah. Like it's like weather roulette. You just don't know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
So we'll
notice how we
see.
always start our
Yes.
I think we always start talking about weather.
Do you know what's funny about that is that it's so, I mean, I don't know, it's like an interesting way to like say, hello, how are you? But you and I, and maybe some of our listeners too, are so impacted by the weather that
Yeah.
that's basically like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because the weather will kind of dictate that. Maybe we need to
Yeah.
branch out to something else, but I don't know. Well,
No,
maybe
you're
when
right.
it gets warm, we won't have to bring it up all the time.
Yeah, people are always warm and sunny and happy. Like their personalities match the weather a lot, I feel like. At least for me, I
Yeah.
try not to. I try not to let the weather affect me so much, but I don't know. Even when you and I talked about this was you saying, Pam, just, embrace hibernation in the winter.
Hmm.
I have tried that, Karen, and it does help a little bit, but you can't escape the thought that like someone like me who doesn't go to the gym and I can't go out on my daily walks because I shouldn't say can't. I refuse to.
Yeah,
I refuse to go out
exactly.
on daily
Yeah.
walks because I don't like how my face feels when I'm
Yeah.
out walking in the cold. And it isn't always the cold, it's the wind.
Oh my gosh, I was
It's the
just gonna
wind.
say that. For me, it's the
Yeah.
wind. You too.
Yeah.
It's the wind. I don't even care how cold it is. Like
Yeah.
if it's a sunny, cold day, I don't care.
Hmm.
Even if
I
the
know.
sun's not out, I don't care. It's the
Yeah.
wind. It's
Right.
that wind. I
I know.
hate
Wah
that
wah,
feeling.
right? Poor us.
I know it's so bougie. So we're complaining, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah. No, but I think so you and I have a lot to catch up on, um, don't we? And
Yeah.
I, golly, Karen, I was like kind of planning some like one or two other topics to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And we were driving home from Myrtle Beach, and I was like, I'm going to listen to some, doctors talk about dementia prevention, and I'm going to listen to some things about truth and blah, 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 and like all these deep things. And I was like, by the time I was done with them, I was like, all of that sounds like way too cerebral for me right now. Cause
Yeah.
when I'm with Karen, but I'm with you, I just like talking to you so much.
And
So,
we can go super deep, but sometimes it's nice to just do light. Sometimes we
yeah,
need just a little bit of light
yeah,
and fun and fluff.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
it's like if you're at a restaurant with your girlfriends and you're at a big group, at least this is how I can be. I can sit there and enjoy listening to two or three people having a conversation. And I kind of think about maybe the podcast we're about to do like that you and I are kind of having a catch up
Hmm.
on what's been going on with both of us. And, you know, listeners, you can just picture that, we're kind of sitting at a restaurant or at a coffee shop, you
Yes,
know?
yes, yes.
So,
We're at a little coffee shop. Some of us have our tea, some of us have our coffee, and we're all just hanging, having a chat. And you get to be a part of that, listener. So that's what
yeah,
we're doing today. Because
yeah,
typically, there's not very many days that go by that Pam and I don't touch base. It's like a little text here, a little something there.
Right.
But
Right.
over the last couple, well, at least a week, Pam's been out of town. My world has been really crazy. And so we really have not had a good catch up. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to have a catch up.
Yeah. And we both have some stuff that you're going to want to hear about because we both have had a lot going on.
Yes.
Don't you think? I mean,
I'm anxious to hear about your trip, everything. Do you want to start
yeah.
there?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I kind of want to start with like I would do with you normally if we're on the
Okay.
telephone.
Okay.
I would just tell you in a very, raw way, Karyn, that Pierre and I had to sit down today and like pick a tombstone for Samuel. Like,
Oh,
what are we going to do? And what should it say on it? And oh my gosh, is he going to be alone here? Should we get another grave spot? Blah, blah, blah. Like, just these like horrible,
awful conversation
awful
that you
things that
should
you have to
never
think
have
about
to. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I've been putting off because, obviously you don't want to talk about that, or think about it, but he needs one. And thankfully, a friend of mine, I'm going to give all my credit to my friend Sherry. I think she's one of our listeners now. She said, why don't you and Pierre put your names on there too? And then he won't be alone at the cemetery because it's a very
Oh my
small
gosh.
cemetery.
I love that.
Yeah. And I want to be cremated
Yeah.
anyway. And Pierre has agreed he does as well.
Okay.
And so we decided we're going to put our names on there also. And I don't know, I feel really good about that because
I love that. What a
you like
brilliant
that.
friend. What a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
I think he would want that too.
I think so. And I don't know, Sherry, if you're listening, thank you for that suggestion to me because I was just putting this off and just not feeling right about anything. And I mean, honestly, my kids will never allow this because they're very, very much by the book Catholics about cremation and things like that. But if it was up to me, I would just say, put me in a vase, sprinkle me on my parents' graves, sprinkle me on Samuel's, sprinkle
Yeah.
me all over America or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but if my kids have anything to do about it, they're not gonna allow that. So I'm just gonna, be happy with this thought. And I know that we are all together in heaven, when we get there. So this is just a formality. This is just one of those things that, like, the picture, the movies, the books you read, you see people like, it's like you know what it is? It's like not a Hollywood. I don't want to say Hollywood, but it's like a imagery thing where you see the widow crying at the gravestone and things like at the graveyard. That's not me. I don't believe in that. I think that's very like you put that in a book or a movie. That's just not me at all to go to a graveyard. In fact, when my mom died, I never went there. I couldn't because I just didn't believe it was like
You've
it just
never been to your mom's
I
grave?
have, but
Okay.
I have, but it wasn't one of these things where I would go there and sit. Like you know that some people use that as like a way to mourn.
Yes. Yeah. My
They go there and
mother-in-law goes,
they
I
go
think,
there and
every
cry.
day. I think
Yeah,
my
and some people
mother-in-law goes every day.
okay, and I can see why some people do that, but for me, I just cry all day every day anyway.
Right. Right.
So I
You
don't
don't
really
need to
need to
go
go.
there to
Yeah.
be
And
with
so
him.
I just don't, I'm not that girl who, if you picture me there crying. I mean, we have gone there and we do cry there, but I just don't believe in that as much as I believe in just like where his soul is. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes, you don't need to go there.
So,
His soul is there with you.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
wherever you
And
are, he's
we're all
there.
going to be together again, in my belief, we are all going to be together one day in heaven. And so that's the way I look at it, not the tombstone, but it is still an important thing to
I
have
was
there,
going to say, but
right?
at the same time, to have you and Pierre be part of that tombstone, it's like you're sharing that space with him and supporting him there. The part of his body that's there, you're
Yeah.
kind of there with him if your name is there, I feel like.
I think so. And, we're thinking that our kids are going to be married and they're going to want to be buried with their spouses and their
Right,
children. This
right.
is such an unusual thing to lose a son so early,
Yeah.
before you that you don't, nobody would ever think you have to think about this kind of thing.
No,
So,
never.
but anyway, so I just wanted to share that with you because I know that if we were just on the phone with each other, this is one of the things that we would talk about, because it's
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
I'm really sorry that you guys I mean, I know it's something you have to do. Maybe
yeah,
you feel peace now that you have settled on it, but that's
yeah,
really sucky. I'm sorry.
yeah. Thanks. No, it is, but it's all part of the process. It's all part of it. So, but on to a different note. As you know, I did some traveling by myself about 10 days ago, and I think you also know like how nervous I was to drive through the mountains. And I think oh
Yeah,
my
you even
gosh,
delayed your trip by a day, right? Remember
I
we had
did
really
because
bad weather?
I know
Yeah.
I delayed it on a day that it was raining, and in exchange, I ended up in a couple blizzards in the
Oh,
Appalachian Mountains.
oh my gosh.
So yeah, so I was trying to find a route out of the mountains that was just not as like twisty turny as like the turnpike. And I just wanted to get out of the mountains as soon as possible. So I was trying to be direct, and I didn't really care about like if it took me longer, like driving 40 miles per hour versus 70. In fact, I prefer the long, slow route.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm driving through this county that wasn't very far from where Samuel actually died. And I was in this blizzard. And these two trucks I was following, I was thankful that I was following them because I felt kind of safer
Yeah,
following these big
yeah,
trucks. Because
yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, if they break down, like we're all in together. They have CB radios, and I felt less nervous about it. And so we're driving, through there, and it was not sunny at all. It was very overcast, but then all of a sudden, the visibility would go away, and the two trucks in front of me just
Just
stopped.
stop short.
Yes, just dead in their tracks. They just stopped, and I'm just sitting here. I couldn't see anything because my windshield was just completely full of blowing snow. And so I don't know,
What
Karen. It
did
was
you
really
do?
weird. I just sat there and just freaked out briefly,
Yeah.
but then I just kind of came out of it because thankfully it didn't last very long. It was only, I don't know, it might have just been blowing through, but it was a magical situation in that it was so quick. But nonetheless, it was really scary. And then when
Oh,
I
I
got
know
onto
what
the
you're talking
highway,
about. I hate those moments when you're in a blizzard and then all of a sudden there's like just no visibility and there's nobody there
yeah.
to help you or somebody stops short. It's yeah,
Could you imagine
scary.
if these trucks, my thought was, what if these trucks were like on a tall, like, okay, it was a high elevation, honestly, but what if they were like at the top and they started sliding down or
Right.
sliding backwards or God forbid, like there's so many horrible things that could have come out of
It
that.
happens. Yeah.
Right, right. So there were angels with me on that trip. But then I got to the highway, and my anxiety, my nerves were just so horrible that I just ended up, I don't know, I was just like a death grip on the steering
Yeah.
wheel. And so
Yeah.
I just decided the rest of the way, once I got out of the mountains, I just went the back roads through Virginia, which are beautiful. The back roads are beautiful.
Yeah.
A 10-hour trip took me 14 hours
Oh
to
my
get there.
gosh.
But it was okay, maybe even 15 hours, but it was okay because I just felt like I need to drive at my pace, slowly, carefully, and not being afraid. Like I want to enjoy a drive. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
freaking out while
And
I'm
you did that all
driving.
in one day, right?
I did. I did. I've done it a
Wow.
couple times now. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm nuts for doing these sorts of things. Like I could be a truck driver.
Right. Yeah. That's so funny.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to be. But so anyway, so that was the beginning of Myrtle. And then I got there, and it was, it was cold there,
Was
just like it
it?
was by
Okay.
you and here. And it was a nice, like, little piece of heaven for a little bit. But I met up with some really nice people. This is what I wanted you and our listeners to know, Karen. We're always talking about loneliness here,
Yeah.
and how to, the community, and just how important it is to like combat that loneliness. And I went out to dinner with some ladies. I had just met them because there's an organizer in that neighborhood who set up this. It's called the Buddy Do app. My friend Joan told me about it. She's also a listener and a very close friend of mine. And they set up like different little groups that people can get together. But basically, what they'll do is they'll put, hey, who wants to play a game? Um, the first 10 people to respond, my house at this time. Um, and
Okay.
then there's and then there's organized events. And so one of the events I went to was a healthy eating event. And so I met it was a nice small group. And so I met some really nice ladies there. And I
That's
just thought to
so
myself,
cool.
yeah, I think this little app is something that if any of our listeners or, even you and your group, if any of you have an organizer, you can, it's just like it's so much better than texting and it's so much better than Facebook because it's the sole purpose of it is, hey, who wants to get together? And it
Right.
can be something that's scheduled out, far out, close up, or it could be something really spontaneous. And so I think it's a really cool thing.
So
If you,
how it works is you and your group of friends are in like a pod together on the app, or it's people you don't know at all.
yeah, it's people. It's so what they did was they held a meeting. It was kind of started as word of mouth.
Okay.
And everybody got together one afternoon and signed up for it basically together. And then it's growing because it's a word of mouth thing. And so it's just a bunch of ladies. I think there's probably some gentlemen on there too. And I think that it's people who want to be social, but they don't
Gotcha.
always know how to get into those social connections.
Yes.
So,
And like instead of inviting a million people, you just put it on the app.
exactly. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And my friend Joan is in charge of a craft group. Or she's one of the creators of it. So she does, she's done that and they post pictures of the things they've done. Of course, it gives me a little bit of FOMO because I'm not there, but I'm also very happy that, all these ladies are participating and getting to enjoy themselves, throughout the winter
Yeah.
and
Say
whenever.
the name of
So,
the app again so our listeners
so
can
it's
get it.
called Buddy Do, BUDDYDO.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And you can create whatever kind of like you could call yourselves, they call themselves the Gickle, but you could call yourselves whatever you want to,
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's so cool.
that
I
is
love
cool.
that.
That is
And
cool.
I love it when there's like just a small way to combat loneliness, right? Like there's so many big things we feel like we have to do, but this
Yeah.
is just a small thing. And it could
Yes.
give big rewards.
Yeah. It can. It can. But
I love
anyway,
it.
so I
I
love
love
it
it.
too. But I'm back in PA and
But
I'm,
PR came to Myrtle Beach with you, right?
he did. He met me down there.
Yeah.
We stayed about a week, a little less than a week. And it was the day that we left, it was 70 degrees there,
Oh
the
my
high.
gosh.
So it's okay. It's okay. I got back to
Did you get any
Pennsylvania.
sun and warmth while you were there? No,
No,
not until the day you left.
sun, but not warmth. Sun, but not warmth. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I have to learn to just accept the ugly as much as I accept the lovely.
Next time you go, it'll be gorgeous there. There's just no
Yes.
doubt in my mind.
Yes.
Next time you go, it'll be great.
Right. In
Yeah.
in in Pennsylvania, we have to wait till end of May. In the South, you guys get to just wait until March, I
Yeah.
think, so that's a big difference, I think, for somebody like me who hates winter and such.
Yeah.
But so how are you, Karen? I know you've had a
Yeah.
really rough month.
It's just been a little bit crazy. It's just been a little bit crazy. Like part of it is just comical and it's silly to complain, right? It's like it's just little things. It's life. But I feel like I bet you're even gonna say, yes, I remember the time this happened to us. Because I've been telling various friends of mine and they've been told, they're like, oh yeah, I remember the time when this broke and that busted and we had to pay for that and that and it all happened at the same time, like in the same week. Like
Yeah.
everybody can relate to the last week that Bill and I have had. So I mentioned on the podcast about, have we ever talked about Bill's cancer?
No, I
We've
didn't.
never talked about it.
I wanted to ask you about it, but I wanted you to be ready to talk about it.
I would have absolutely talked about it. I don't know
Yeah,
why. We just haven't talked about it.
I know
But
you've been going through so much,
that's the
and yeah.
backdrop. That's the backdrop is that Bill was diagnosed with cancer last July. And it's been a bit of a crazy road where we geared ourselves up for like this, like when you hear that word cancer, that's an awful word. And you think, well, we're gonna deal with it. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna do the chemo and we're gonna do everything, right? And it was so up and down and roller coaster. And are they going to treat it and are they going to not? Because it's a type of cancer where unfortunately there's no cure. Even if you do um, radiation or chemotherapy or immunotherapy or whatever is the C-CART, like the CAR T, I guess it's called therapy. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you do. It's like a chronic cancer. So they have to decide when to treat it because they don't want to constantly be treating it because then you're always sick, right? If you're always having, typically it's chemo and it's a type of lymphoma. So it's a blood cancer. And so we kind of lived that roller coaster for a long time. And then they decided, no, we're not going to treat it. It's not bad enough. And for me, that would have left me just feeling despondent and like,
Yeah.
what do I do now? Because I know it's inside me. But for
Mhm.
Bill, hearing that was actually really freeing. And he said, cancer schmancer, it's so him. I'm not going to let it stop me or my life. It
Oh,
like took the last 6 months with this roller coaster of freakingness out, and now I'm just going to go on. And they'll tell me when it's time. They'll tell me. And in the meantime, he also saw a natural type of cancer doctor who has him on a special diet and supplements and things like that,
okay.
lifestyle changes, getting adequate sleep, all those things that may not cure it, but
Mhm.
will help, right? Just help you
Yeah.
feel your best. And so he started doing all of that. And then once we kind of got steady, then he got whacked again because he was diagnosed with another kind of cancer, this time a skin cancer, which he's had before, but the basal cell kind. And so this was actually melanoma, which is much more serious. And you and I have talked about this, that I think it was Samuel that actually had melanoma as
Yeah, he
well,
did.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and so we went to the hospital to have it taken out, and I even kind of said like because he has had this before, and my dad has had this before. They have this thing, it's called the Mohs procedure,
Yeah.
and I know about that, and so I know it's not the biggest deal in the world. They just like cut it out, you wait. They see, did they get all the margins, and then you move on. And so
Right.
I said, yeah, it's an hour away. Do I really need to go with you? And we decided in the end that I would come. Well, thank God I did because he ended up being there for 4 hours and this massive scar all across his face and his eye, because it's right here. Like you can't see me if
No.
you're listening, but it's right near his eye, and they
No.
didn't know if he was going to lose his eye.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a much bigger thing, and his eye was all puffy. There's no way this guy could have drove, and they didn't say any of that. They didn't tell us at all. Like, and I see everybody waiting in the waiting room for their procedure, and they're all like, what is going on? What's the holdup? And I know because I'm sitting there and I know it's my husband because there's only one doctor there that's doing all these
Hmm.
surgeries. So that was absolutely insane. And then just like 2 weeks after that, we had this massive storm that I was telling you about, and our power went out. Well, when the power went out on the backdrop of all this, just like kind of just drama in our life, it must have shorted different appliances in our house because that night the stove went. And unbeknownst to us, our HVAC, the HVAC,
Yeah.
we actually have 2 units. That's the good news because we have one for the upstairs and one. Do you have that too?
We do have to. Yes.
Yeah, so we have one for
Yep.
the upstairs and one for the downstairs, and it was the downstairs one that went, and we had just last year replaced the upstairs one.
You guys
So
have a fireplace or anything?
we do, yeah,
Okay.
thank God we do. We have a
Yeah.
fireplace too. So like really, part of it is really just comical because I'm not
Yeah.
complaining. I mean, the cancer stuff has been
I mean,
difficult.
You
And
have
it's
every right to
been,
complain, by the way.
well, it's more just like,
It's rough.
really, really, God,
No, I
it's
mean,
more
that's
like
rough.
that. But everybody can
Mhm.
relate to it. The other stuff is
Yeah.
really difficult. And this is probably a conversation for a whole nother podcast. But for me personally, it's been very weird because I have had Crohn's since I was 14. And
Yeah.
during that time, I always see myself as the patient and the one that people that are healthy have to take care of. So that role reversal is a very weird thing for me. It's just
Yeah.
really weird. And I realized that it's actually really hard to be the caregiver too. It's not just hard to be the patient. But so
Yeah.
anyway, so that was all weird, and we should probably do like a separate podcast on that.
Mhm.
But so
Mhm.
we were going through all that, and then this happened where the power went out and we lost those things, and I thought, well, that's sucky, but it's life. And then like just things just kept toppling on top of it because Bill took my car in to get it serviced for an oil change, and they said, like, you can't leave because you're not even going to make it anywhere because your tires are completely bald and you need to replace all four. So then that was, so it was the oven, the HVAC, the tires, and in the midst of dealing with all of that, my beloved cat, who got his start in life at your house,
Yeah.
got really, really sick. And
Yeah. That was
this is
scary.
not the first time that this has happened. So this has now become a pattern where he
Oh.
starts to vomit all the time and have diarrhea.
Oh,
And so I ended up, at first we thought we're just going to watch him. And then I took him into the ER because it just kept getting worse and worse. And everybody who has a pet who's been in this situation that where you have to go to the pet ER knows that it ain't cheap. It ain't
right.
cheap. It's crazy expensive. So
Yeah.
within those like few days, the money just kept going out as we had to buy the new oven, the new tires, the new HVAC
Yeah.
system, and then this massive which we're not done with because now Oliver has to go back Saturday for blood work and then he's going Tuesday for an ultrasound because get this, they think he might have IBD. Isn't that crazy?
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
I
That
know,
isn't
but isn't
funny.
that crazy? Like
That's your specialty.
that's right. Like if anybody was going to have a cat with inflammatory bowel disease, it should be me, right? I mean, it just makes sense. So, but there's a lot of testing and stuff involved.
Yeah.
It's definitely something
Oh.
gastrointestinal. We're not exactly sure. I mean, he's so anxious of a cat that maybe it's IBS or something like that, but they do have to test him. They definitely have
Yeah.
to test him for Crohn's
Mm.
or colitis. And with the diarrhea and the vomiting, it's definitely something that I work in that area. So I feel
Yeah.
like in the end, I'll be able to help him with whatever it is, but I feel
Yeah.
really strongly that we have to get a diagnosis. But
Yeah.
after those several days, the money just kept going out and it ended up being like $25,000. And I know there's people listening and they're like, yep, I had that. I remember the time when that happened to us. It just kept
Yeah.
like an avalanche of craziness.
Mm.
And like all you can do is just like, whatever. So right now, like you might be able to see if you're watching this, like I've got my blanket because we don't have the new HVAC unit yet. And so it's cold
Yeah.
because it's still kind of cold here and it's supposed to get even colder this weekend. So
Oh.
in this room that I'm in, I have a heater. But when I leave this room and I go to the kitchen, I wear my coat. Everybody's laughing at me, but if I have my coat on, then I'm warm enough.
Yeah. Well, and why is everything so expensive too? You know what I mean? Like
I'm so glad you
things,
said that because
robbery. It's robbery
somebody
out
else,
there.
like, but
Yeah.
living in living near DC, like that might sound crazy to some people that you would spend that much on those things, but that is how much in DC, that's how much these
Hmm.
things cost. Maybe
Yeah, the
somewhere
DC
else in
price.
the world, Mississippi, I don't know, maybe somewhere else it doesn't cost that, but here, those things, that's what they cost. That's the going
Yeah.
rate. It's not,
Yeah.
and I didn't
No.
go like super fancy with anything. It's just your average everyday kind of appliance and care for the cat and tires and all of that.
Mhm.
It's just everyday stuff. Just
I mean,
crazy.
Adam took his car in for an oil change and a tire rotation, and he was going to get a transmission checkup. And I said, Adam, how much was your bill? And he said, $750. And I was like, what?
Just for that?
$750? Like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, that's a lot for a young
Everything is
kid.
so expensive. Of course it
I
is.
can understand. I mean, not that people should be charged more because they have more money than the rest, but just in general, it's just like this is a young kid like who's making $40,000
That's
a
a lot of
year.
dear. Yeah, that's a lot of money
That's
for him.
expensive.
Yeah.
Things are
Dylan
really
just did the
expensive.
same thing just yesterday. He has an
Hmm.
old pickup truck and it needed new tires, and being on a, fixed budget like he is,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
found a dealership that, not a dealership, a mechanic who said half price tires be with like 60 to 70% tread, right? So used tires, but they still had
Hmm.
tread. And then he
Hmm.
goes there and it was like 30% tread. And then they did a really crummy job. And thankfully, he is very car savvy. This kid loves
Yeah.
cars. He loves working on cars. And
Yeah.
so he said, next time I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to do it on my own. But he just doesn't have the money. Like I was thinking about him because he has two cats. If something like this happened to either of his cats, he would not be able to afford the bill.
I mean, this is one of those things where I keep thinking, and I know this is going to sound, I don't know, this is going to sound controversial, but all these kids who are going away to college, getting these degrees, and then they're not able to find jobs in business and accounting, things like that.
Yeah.
Kids go to trade school, become electricians, become auto mechanics, become
Yeah.
plumbers, and then maybe you can stop, like you guys can like add some saturation to the current market. And so the prices can go down and make things more affordable for
There you
people.
go.
I don't know. I
Amen.
just,
Amen to
right?
that. I
Because
love that.
it's
I love
just,
that. And it's so true because I even like think about your kids' friend groups and like what they're doing.
yeah,
Like a lot of Dylan's friends are not, that have graduated are not working. Like one is a bartender. No, I mean, one works in a restaurant, one works like at a,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, nobody's working
Thousands
in
of
their
dollars.
field. Nobody's working in their field.
I know. And thousands of dollars parents sock away for
Oh
university.
yeah. And we spent so much
Yeah.
money
I mean,
on this
Adam's job, he
education.
doesn't need he works at a construction company now. He doesn't need a degree for it. I
Right.
mean, I'm glad he got it, I guess, but I'm kind of like,
I just keep hoping
ugh,
that they're going to work into it. Like maybe the next job, like this is a starter job, and then the next job, I don't know. It's so hard right now. It's
it
so much
really
harder than
is.
it was for us when we graduated.
I think so. I think there's just such a saturation in the business and the entrepreneurial area, or not a saturation. Wait, I don't know. I don't know what causes that. I don't even know what causes that to be. Why
I
people can price gouge. I mean, I
Inflation
guess
and
there's not enough competition, right? That's really what it is. There's too much need and not enough competition.
right, the
And that
whole
is
supply and
because none
demand
of the
thing.
young people want to work in those places. They all
Yeah.
want to go in coffee shops, like you said, and they want to go to Hollywood and be actors.
Right.
None of them really
Right.
want to work
Everybody thinks I'm
that
going to be an
hard.
influencer.
And
I find it so
influencers, I
funny,
know.
right? Like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be an influencer. It's like, yeah, do you know how lucky those people are that have the millions and millions of followers that make the money? It's so rare that it actually works out. But I love your idea of just go to trade school. You
yeah,
don't like, unless you like really like, I'm a huge proponent of college because I had such an amazing experience in college and I grew so much. And it was much more about the social
hmm,
aspect of it, as in being mature and learning about life skills and adulting, but it
yeah,
wasn't really the academics that helped me. So I am a big fan of college if you can do it. But if you don't want to go to college, that doesn't mean you're not going to be successful.
right.
There's
There's a
so
lot of
many
successful.
paths to success. Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
My a shout out to my one of my nephews who, gosh, he was the type of child that he skipped a grade. He was so smart. And then he was a behavior problem too. So he he was just too smart.
Yeah.
And he got out of high school, said, Mom and Dad, no, I hate school, I hate learning. I mean, I hate school. I'm not doing it. Um, and his intelligence is just really impressive because he took it and he turned it into auto mechanic. So I believe he's self-taught. I mean, I'm sure he had some high school classes in it, But I guess he's very successful in his area
Amazing.
with,
Right. There's a lot
so
of kids like
I'm
that.
really proud of him for that because I think that's a great example of a kid who just said, I hate school. He has a sister who's a lawyer, another brother. They're a highly educated family, but this kid just said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Not for me.
So
I love that. Or
yeah,
I think sometimes kids when they're 18, they should, instead of, just feel lost or they don't know what they want to do, just wait. Maybe you'll go
right.
later. Maybe you won't. It's all good. You don't have to
Yeah.
go right after. A lot of
Oh,
kids take a gap year, or some kids don't
amen.
go at all.
Yeah. Right. And that's
Yeah,
perfectly okay.
exactly. I
Yeah. So
agree. I agree.
yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, Karen, what a couple weeks you've had. And
It's been a little crazy, but
I know
it's gonna calm down.
it's not, Karen,
Gonna
could it get
calm
any
down.
worse? That's what I'm thinking. Is
Oh,
it
that's so
even
funny because I said that to somebody. I'm like, they were commiserating with me, and I said somebody at my son's soccer game, and I said, "Well, it can't get worse." And they're like, "No, no, don't say that. You'll jinx
I
it. It could
know.
get worse." I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like the worst is knock on something. I feel like the worst is behind us, and now I just, you know what I mean? Like, I literally
Mm.
$25,000 went out the door that I didn't expect to spend. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's terrible.
I didn't expect to spend any of that money.
It's terrible and it's very stressful because
Yeah,
you probably had it earmarked for something else. And
exactly.
I know you're being cheerful right now about it, talking to me, and but I know that it has to be really difficult when you're
You know
sit
what?
down and you think about
I
it all.
don't stress about. I really honestly don't. I don't stress about things like this because I think I've said this before, when you have health challenges, you realize what's really important, and this will
Yeah.
pass. It's no big, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I honestly don't
Yeah.
stress about
You
it.
have your health, Bill's doing better, your
Yeah,
kids are great,
that's what's important.
you're in
My kids'
some
mental
type of
health.
remission too, right? With your
Yeah,
Crohn's right
yeah,
now. So
yeah.
yeah.
That's what's important. So
Hmm.
this is not,
Hmm.
this is gonna pass and we're gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's more like just a comedy of errors. It's okay. It's all
Yeah. But
good. Yeah,
and I
we'll be
also
okay.
think, you know what else is okay? I think it's okay that you're complaining about it and you're frustrated by it because that's human, you know.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
anybody
be
would be. Anybody,
right.
yeah, frustrated
It
is
wouldn't be
definitely a word that
normal
I
to
would
say,
say.
oh, this is, you know. So,
Yeah.
but
I'm definitely frustrated. I'm definitely annoyed, but I'm not stressed or anxious about it
mhm,
because why? I spend my life worrying about what I need to worry about, not things that
yeah,
really just
that's
don't
those are
matter.
words to live by for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're such a good influence.
I learned that really early on that
Yeah,
I'm not
I
going to
know
give
you did.
energy to things that don't need like in
Yeah.
positive and negative. I'm just not going to give energy to things that don't like. That's why I've never gotten involved in like girl drama. You know how that
Mhm,
I never get involved in
mhm.
any of that because
Yeah,
what does it matter?
right. It
So,
doesn't matter. It just people like to entertain themselves, I guess.
right, like it's like you probably don't have enough going on in your life if you're
Yeah.
constantly thinking about those kinds of things that just don't
Hmm. Hmm.
freaking matter.
I think so. I think that's what it has to be.
Yeah.
But
So what's coming up for you next?
um, well, we're
Are
gonna
you home for a
go.
while?
Yeah, we're home for a couple weeks, and then we're gonna go down to a conference in Charleston for 2 day for a weekend, and then meet up with some friends who are visiting, and then close friend of mine from teaching days in San Antonio, and then back up to Pittsburgh for spring, and that's all that's as far out as I'm planning right now.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
month
yeah,
at a
yeah.
time. So
Yeah. Well, Sheridan, our friend Sheridan kind of spurred this on in me. She was going to Alaska. She was like really hot in
oh,
Texas,
I
and
know.
she was going to Alaska where it was cold, and
I think
I
that's so
was
funny that she did that.
That's so funny. And of course, I have the opposite issue where I'm just cold here
Yeah.
in Maryland during the
You want to go to Texas.
winter. And so exactly like she was like, it's so hot. I'm like, please send it, send
Mm-hmm.
it my way.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kind of spurred me on to think about getting out. Like I used to do it all the time, every year. In fact, we would go to my parents in Florida, but they're
Yeah.
not there anymore. And so I thought, I got to get some sunshine. And so I was talking about Liam's spring break coming up from school, and I was talking about maybe going to Minnesota because Bill needs to regroup with his doctor who's in Minnesota. He sees a doctor at the Mayo Clinic. And so I was like, well, we'll just kind of combine that. And then I thought, you know what? Minnesota in March? No, I
No,
know I can't do it.
no,
I just can't. So now
no
we're
way.
going to go to Arizona instead.
Mhm.
And I'm so much happier because it's going to
I
be
love that.
heat, heat,
Which
heat, warm, warm, warm.
which part of Arizona?
So we're going to fly into Phoenix, but we're staying near Sedona.
Okay. Oh, I hear
And
that's really
then
pretty.
we'll go to the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff and maybe, I don't know that we'll
Which I
spend that much
think the
time in
Grand
Phoenix,
Canyon
but
can be quite cold
yeah,
this time of year, right?
I
Which
don't
is not
know. We'll see.
which is
I
not a
don't
bad
know.
thing, right? Because if it's super hot, I can remember when we went to Phoenix, it was it was oh gosh, it was like 80 there.
Yes,
And then
that's what I've
it
looked and the
was
temperatures were like 80.
yeah, and then the Grand Canyon, if we were to drive there, was like you had to bring a winter coat.
Oh, that
But that was
different.
that was February
Wow.
though. That was
Okay.
February.
This is
So
end of March. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll
yeah,
let you
you'll have
know.
I
I
think you'll
think
have nice weather.
it's those kinds of places where they're cool in the morning and then they get warm and then they get cool at
Mhm.
night. I think that's what they are like in March. So we'll see. But I
Yeah.
know I'm going to get some sunshine there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you
And
will.
so
Yeah.
I just need that my last bit to get
Mhm.
over winter, my
I
seasonal
know.
affective disorder. So
And just having something to look forward to on the calendar,
you're
is
so right.
really, it really is it's a perk being able to
Yes.
plan it and then look forward to it
Yeah.
to get you through.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're thinking, gosh, I don't have anything coming up till summer, I think it's time. It's time to put something on the
Hmm.
calendar. And it could be
Hmm.
like Pam and I who are going out of town, or it could be something really simple like going for a massage or planning a book club with your friends or something like that. Just
Hmm.
something to get you over the little hump of this time of year. I think it's really important, even if it's small, to just plan something.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's what gets me through is planning something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
Well, I loved catching up with you.
yeah, I liked catching up with you too. And I know we've never done this on a podcast before where we just talk like this, but I don't know. I think it's fun. So,
Yeah, well,
like we said
I enjoyed
before,
it.
maybe nobody will
I enjoyed
listen
it.
to us. No,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
that's okay.
okay.
You know what? If you want to skip this one, it's okay. You can skip this one. We'll get and have a nice deep Pam and Karyn conversation next time.
Uh-huh,
But we
uh-huh,
just needed something light and fun. And we
mhm,
just, frankly,
mhm.
listener, we just needed to catch up with each other. So
Yeah.
thanks for being patient with us while we did that.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your winter.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.